And welcome to the March 2025 board meeting. Good welcome to those of you in the room and also to those of us watching online. Ms. Beam, would you call roll?
Mr. Babbitt.
Here.
Mr. Boyd.
Here.
Mrs. Johan.
Here.
Mr. Kuhn.
Here.
Mrs. Reagan. Mrs. Steele.
Here.
Dr. Yurkovich.
Here. Thank you. This evening, we will be led in the Pledge of Allegiance by Tom Nguyen, who graduated in 2019 from Step Up, which is Olathe's adult diploma program. And a little bit later this evening, we will hear more from Tom during that presentation. Thank you.
I pledge the allegiance to the flag
Of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Board, at this time, I would take a motion to adopt the agenda for tonight's meeting.
I move to adopt the agenda as presented.
Second.
Agenda by Mr. Boyd, second by Ms. Johan.
Mr. Boyd.
Yes.
Mrs. Johan.
Thank you.
Yes.
Mr. Kuhn.
Yes.
Mrs. Steele.
Yes.
Dr. Yurkovich.
Yes.
Mr. Babbitt.
Yes.
Okay, at board, I missed item 1.03. I'd welcome a motion to appoint a deputy clerk. As you know, the individual who's been serving in that capacity has moved to another position outside of the district, so I would accept a motion 1.03.
Move to appoint Suzanne Hastert, Deputy Clerk of the Board of Education for 2025.
Second.
Motion by Ms. Steele, second by Mr. Kuhn.
Mrs. Johan.
Yes.
Mr. Boyd.
Yes.
Mr. Babbitt.
Yes.
Mrs. Steele.
Yes.
Dr. Yurkovich.
Yes.
Mr. Kuhn.
Yes.
I'm here now.
Mrs. Reagan.
Yes.
Motion passes 7-0. Thank you. This evening, Ms. Grubaugh with our recognitions, please.
Yes. Well, good evening and welcome to all of our distinguished guests. To begin our awards and recognitions tonight, I would like to invite Olathe South High School Principal Dr. Sean Demery to the front. Tonight, we are proud to recognize Dr. Demery for receiving the Outstanding Real World Learning Leadership Award at the Kauffman Foundation's annual Real World Learning event. Dr. Demery fosters a collaborative and engaged school community, and this is evident in his efforts to connect Olathe South with local businesses. By actively selling client-connected projects, Dr. Demery creates opportunities for students to gain real-world experience and businesses to benefit from their talents. This commitment to collaboration extends beyond the school walls, further evidenced by his recognition as the 2024 KSPA Administrator of the Year. This award highlights his dedication to fostering open communication and building strong relationships with all stakeholders in the Olathe South community. His open-door philosophy and willingness to think outside the box allow a collaborative space where teachers feel safe to try something new. Sean is working to bring Junior Achievements 3DE programming to Olathe South, an innovative approach to high school education that prepares students for success in college and careers. And by partnering with local businesses, 3DE brings real-world challenges into the classroom, engaging students in hands-on learning experiences. Students get to collaborate with their peers to solve challenges, develop critical thinking, problem solving, and communication skills. This immersive learning model helps students build confidence, explore their passions, and gain a deeper understanding of the workforce. We are so proud to honor Sean tonight for receiving this well-deserved award and for bringing real-world learning opportunities to what he calls his Falcon family. Congratulations, Sean. you, Sean. Well, from the high school level now to our elementary friends, I'd like to invite up our student Math Wings champions from our January competition, along with Arbor Creek Elementary Principal Melissa Snell and Math Wings sponsor Dion Hobson, as well as Regency Place Elementary Principal Greg O'Borney and Math Wings sponsors Stacy Anderson and Kelly Stewart. So come on up, kids, come on up. For those of you who don't know, Math Wings is a district-wide elementary school competitive club, and the meetings consist of intense mental math skills, problem-solving competitions, vocabulary review, and various math scrimmages. There are 3 events held throughout the year, and these students up front represent the winning teams at the 4th and 5th grade levels for our second contest of the year, held in January. In the 4th grade category, Arbor Creek Elementary's Addison Baker, Quentin Smith, and Benaiah Brown took first place, while in the 5th grade competition, Regency Place students Jeremy Chen, Liam Allender, and Aria Singer were our champions. Please join me in congratulating these outstanding mathematicians on their winning performance. We'll take a group photo, but I know there's some proud parents in the audience, so please feel free to come up and get pictures as well. And congratulations. And I can hear the jingle jangling of the medals in the back. So finally, I would like to invite Olathe Northwest Raven Dance Team to the front, along with their coach Shannon Summers and principal Chris Zook, as well as athletic director Matt Johnson. Oh, what a good sound that is. The Olathe Northwest Dance Team recently won the 6A state title in the Game Day Dance Showcase. This is the second consecutive year the team has won the state title, but they also recently returned from Orlando, Florida, where they were crowned as Grand National Champions. The 3-day competition features 5 individually scored team dances, culminating in the recognition of a Grand Champion. Northwest has won the Grand Championship title 6 times since 2012. This year, the team took first in the large varsity game day category and large varsity team performance category. They earned second place in the large varsity pom category and 4th in large varsity jazz. We are so proud of these students for their continued success at the state and national level. Please join me in giving them a round of applause. And yes, parents, please feel free to come up and get photos as well. Awesome. Well, thank you so much. Congratulations.
Congratulations, ladies. At this time, I would invite Russ Munyon forward for a presentation, School Spotlight on Step Up. Welcome.
Members of the Board of Education, thank you for this opportunity to report to you on Step Up, this little gem in our school district. As you know, Step Up is the Olathe Public Schools Adult Diploma Program. Despite the magnificent job that Olathe schools do in servicing our traditional students, there are adults in our community who don't have high school diplomas. Approximately 9% of American adults do not have diplomas or equivalents, which is about 200,000 working-age Kansans. And we all know that trying to succeed without a diploma is an uphill, unforgiving, and in many cases impossible task. In 2022, workers whose highest level of education was a diploma earned just 25% more than those who didn't finish high school, meaning that there's a 25% earning gap between graduates and non-graduates. Furthermore, adults without high school diplomas make up the bottom 30% of earners when compared to other groups of Americans. In addition to lower earning potential, adults without diplomas are at a greater risk of unemployment. Also in 2022, people without diplomas had the highest unemployment rate among people at all education levels. Adults without diplomas have greater susceptibility to lifestyle problems as well, such as substance abuse and other health risks. It was estimated in 2020 that each high school dropout cost the U.S. economy $272,000 due to lower tax contributions, higher reliance on Medicare, Medicaid, and welfare, and higher rates of criminal activity. So while it's really, really important that we keep doing what we do so well in our district, which is graduating our kids from high school, about 1 in 11 Kansans still needs our help. Step Up is a diploma completion opportunity for any Kansas resident. We currently graduate about 60 students a year. Our youngest graduates are teenagers who are just a year or so out of high school, but other graduates come from every decade of life, from their 20s, 30s, 40s, and 50s, and we've had older graduates as well in their 60s and 70s, and yes, our highest graduate so far was age 74. I'd like to show you several clips of Step Up grads speaking at their commencement ceremonies. The first one was from 2023, where one of our graduates talks about her journey to graduation. It lasts just under a minute.
My name is Carrie Mashburn, and it took me 38 years to be here today. 38 years. Many ups and downs in my life. I have 3 beautiful children. In that life, I traveled doing GPS tracking. I had brain surgery. I have cancer. I've done it, through all of this. Thank you for giving me the second chance of coming back here and doing it again. My son, John Valletta, was here 8 years ago, and he graduated from this Step Up program. So thank you for giving us the opportunity to graduate. Thank you.
When students enroll in Step Up, I access their academic transcripts from when they were in high school. I review those and determine how many credits they already have and how many they'll need to graduate. Students then earn credits by completing pre-recorded online classes through the Edgenuity program, typically completing their work off campus in between other adult responsibilities. The staff recommends that our students work for an average of an hour a day on their classes, but for working adults with bosses to please and spouses and life partners to love and kids to raise, that can be a big ask, month after month and year after year. Many Step Up students overcome amazing obstacles to walk across the stage in a cap and gown and get their diplomas. Here's another video from Commencement 2023 of one of our students talking about overcoming her obstacles.
Hi, I'm Madison. I just joined this program last year. I was supposed to graduate in 2017, but halfway through my senior year, I hung around the wrong crowd and got into things I shouldn't have, and I ended up dropping out. And I think I only needed like 3 to 6 credits, so it was really silly on my part to drop out when I could have finished. In that time frame, I ended up getting pregnant when I was 19, and I have my beautiful 4-year-old son now. And then when I joined this program, I was pregnant with my daughter, and I thankfully Bobby and Russ, they gave me time after I had her, and then I was like, no, I need to finish this. So I kept going. Unfortunately, in February, she passed away. But they gave me time, they gave me grace. I'm so thankful for that. And I finished. I was trying not to cry. But I did it for her, for my family, and I'm really proud of myself.
In order to enroll in Step Up, a student has to be at least age 18, has to be a Kansas resident, and the student's high school cohort must have already graduated. The Olathe Public Schools receives funding for Step Up. It receives funding for Step Up students from the Kansas State Department of Education, so there's no charge for students to participate. In fact, the program is not only self-supporting, but it also generates surplus revenue to help support other important Olathe Schools programs. Students with all kinds of stories enroll in Step Up. Some students just didn't have the personal wherewithal or the family support needed to succeed in high school. Others had really hard luck experiences when they were teenagers, making it simply impossible to succeed or even continue in school. And we have immigrants who enroll each year who just never had the opportunity for a great education like kids in Olathe. Here's a story from a 2024 Step Up graduate who's an immigrant. She's now a U.S. citizen, and her kids are all enrolled in Olathe schools.
My name is Evelyn Elon. As you can see, I am so excited. It was not an easy journey as English as my second language. But I thought, I'm not going to stay home because my children will see like education is nothing. So I'm going to challenge my children with the support of friends that were encouraging me. They say, keep going. Some of them are just graduated from nursing school, others graduated for RN, and they keep encouraging me. They're like, you are not going to be behind, stay behind. Keep going. It wasn't easy. I almost gave up because of children, work, homework, and it was not an easy journey, but I made it. I did not only make it here. As soon as I stopped, I move on with the encouragement of my friends. Went to nursing school. Continue until I'm going to the air, and I'm keep going.
Once a student finishes her last class, Step Up graduates her immediately. The district registrar's office produces a transcript that shows the graduation date as the last day the student worked on a class. That way the student can immediately move into whatever it is she's been working toward through Step Up, like the woman in the video who said she'd already started nursing school. You can imagine that piece of paper with a graduation date on it is transformative. Graduates often qualify for better jobs with higher pay and better working conditions. Graduates can often be better spouses and life partners, as well as better parents, being able to drop second or third jobs and be more available to those who love and depend upon them. And of course, Step Up graduates can pursue post-secondary education and training, not only for better incomes, but for bigger dreams. Step Up graduates have gone on to a full range of post-secondary opportunities, including trade school, union apprenticeships, community colleges, four-year universities, the military, and other pathways that would not have been available to them if they didn't have their diploma. Here's another video from Step Up's 2024 commencement where a student talks about her goals and dreams.
Good. Hi, everyone. My name is Brittany Clark. I'm kind of nervous. I started this thing about 3 years ago. I was supposed to graduate in 2012. And life happens. I was on a different path, but I am so proud of my journey. I just want to thank my husband and my 3 kids and all of my family that's here to support me and continuing to support me. Without them, I wouldn't have been able to do it. I always got on my daughter. She's my oldest. She's be 16 in like 2 months. And I kept getting on her like a few years ago, and I was like, you gotta finish school, you know, you gotta make good grades, but I felt like I was being a hypocrite, because I was like, if I didn't do it, you know, why am I on her so hard about doing it? And so I finally was like, I'm gonna do it, we're gonna do it together. I'm a graduate and she graduates in a few years. And after this graduation, we'll see where it goes, but I'm looking forward to becoming a licensed nail tech, and she'll become a hairstylist, so we'll open our shop together. So thank you.
I would be giving you an incomplete picture if I didn't talk about one other group that greatly benefits from Step Up, and that's high school counselors. It's a despairing moment when a counselor has to look across her desk and report to a student and his distraught parents that he's not going to graduate at the end of his senior year. It would be an awful thing for that counselor to have to say, well, young fellow, you're not going to make it, which sets you up for a life of hardship. And your community's primary education provider, well, they have nothing for you, so hope that works out for you. But that's not what our counselors have to say. Our counselors can say instead, whether you're ready now or whether you become ready sometime in the future, Step Up will be available for you. Each year around this time, I call on different high school counselors throughout the area, so they have a high degree of knowledge and confidence about Step Up, so they can refer it to their non-graduating seniors and their families. Step Up services schools and students. Step Up services students from all the school districts and public high schools in our area, as well as many private and parochial schools. Part of my job is to make sure that counselors have Step Up brochures in their desk drawers and on their computer desktops to give to non-graduating seniors and their families at the end of the school year. Before I close, I want you to hear a Step Up success story firsthand. You see, I was all prepared to close my presentation at this point when I received an email last weekend from my former student, Trung Duy Huynh, who goes by Tom. And you met Tom earlier. Tom wrote to me out of the blue this weekend, and he said, I'm not sure if you remember me, but I'm writing to give you an update on my life since graduating from Step Up in 2019. Well, I did remember Tom, and as I read his update, I realized that I should invite him to tell you his story as well.
So, yeah, hello, I'm Trung Huynh, and I also go by Tom. So I moved here from Vietnam in 2019 when I was 18, and I never actually graduated high school back there. If I wanted to get a diploma, I would have needed to retake my entire senior year at Olathe South, but luckily Step Up was there and I was able to enroll in it and managed to finish my degree by June and in 4.25 credits. From there, I was able to attend JCCC to get an associate's degree, transferred to KU for a bachelor in astronomy, managed to get my US citizenship, and I am now on track to go to the University of Iowa for a PhD in physics. So yeah, without Step Up, I wouldn't be able to have done all of that on time, and so I would like to thank the program for us. It helped me immensely, and I hope that it will be able to help a lot of other people as well. Yeah.
And so there is our little gem. Thank you for support of this program, and I hope each of you will join us at our annual commencement this year, which will be on May 14th at the Mill Creek campus.
Mr. Munyon, before you step away, board, are there any questions?
The old classroom teacher is disappointed.
You saw me with the wait time, though. Yeah.
Thank you, Dr. Ricard.
Well, thank you so much. Thank you for all. Oh,
I don't have a question.
okay. Go.
More of a comment. I think Push the button. There's a button's pushed now. Now everyone can hear me, my fans included. Okay. I just want to say thank you for what you do. It's an amazing program. It was one of my first experiences of graduation with the Olathe School Board and being able to come last year. It was really amazing and very, very, very neat to be a part of that. So thank you for that. And thank you for everyone that came here tonight.
I will tell you, you don't really understand Step Up until you go to commencement. And when you do, it's just powerful. It's like, that's amazing. And not what I did, it's the students doing their thing. So thanks for coming and hope to come again.
I just put it in my calendar.
Thank you. Thank you. And thank you, Mr. Nguyen, for being here to share your story. And I think Mr. Schwederman is also in the audience, who is the principal at Mill Creek. If you want to wave again or stand up. Thank you. Thank you to the staff. And Dr. Dandridge, yes, I just remembered I saw her as well. Thank you. Thank you. Okay, Dr. Fluke, thank you for being here.
Good evening, everybody. Thank you for taking the time to be here, and thank you all for being here as well. I'm extremely proud to be here representing the work of a lot of folks that are not me, including our teachers, our administrators, our paraprofessionals, and many other support staff in our building, and our PBIS coaches, three of whom are in the back. They may or may not be rowdy, we'll find out, but I'm here on behalf of them as well. My name's Scott Fluke. I'm our Assistant Director of Mental Health Services in BSCL, and it is my role tonight to share with you a little bit about our Positive Behavior Interventions and Supports program, as well as our mental health services that we have. And I'll end with a little bit of a commercial for our upcoming Taste of the Town, so I'm excited to share a little bit about that as well. Framing our belief system and how we support our students, we believe that behavioral health comes from a really complex interaction between who the student is, what their history is, and the environment around them. And of those three variables, there's only one of those that we have any power to impact and directly control. I'm a psychologist, but I can't reach into somebody's brain and take away the ADHD or change the autism diagnosis. I don't have that power, nor can I change anything that's happened to them in the past. But what I can do, and what all of our staff members, all of our parents can do, is build a safe and supportive environment around our students. But with that said, it is unfair to go to a teacher or go to a school and say, hey, you need to just do this on your own. Go make a safe and positive space. Figure that out. Take care of that. We need to build systems of support to wrap around our staff to guide them in how to do that effectively. And that fundamentally is what Positive Behavior Interventions and Supports is. It's our way of systematically, as a school district, as a school, as a community, wrapping around our kids and saying, this is somewhere you can be safe, somewhere you belong, somewhere you can be a part of something, where you get positive interactions from all the adults all day long as you go about your school day. We have been implementing PBIS formally now for about 5 years. We started in 2020, and if you remember 2020, you may recall that that was a somewhat challenging time in education. We came in right as our first COVID year was coming. At the time, we started with just 13 schools, getting them up and running, teaching them how to do this, partnering with them, and developing their systems and getting them integrated into their daily practices. Over the course of the last several years, we've brought on a few schools at a time, choosing to invest in the long-term sustainability of this and success of the program rather than just getting it up quickly. And now I'm proud to say that we have, 46 schools up and running now, and just 10 more that we're developing with this school year. So in August, we'll have every school up and running with PBIS. And of those, we now have 34 schools that have moved on to implement targeted interventions or advanced Tier 2 supports. So now more than half of our schools have even moved on to the more advanced PBIS, which is something that's very rare in education to actually move to that level. And all of this is really is really due to the incredibly hard work that several of our staff members do every day. We have 5 district PBIS coaches. Their role and function is to move right alongside school-based teams as they make decisions about their PBIS system. The coach guides them and supports them in much the way that an academic coach would, and leads them to success, helps them learn what are the right decisions, what's the right next step for my school and my community. But each of those coaches carries a caseload of 11 or 12 schools, and they work very, very hard to drive the success. And I should also highlight that we have a little bit of support from Angela Cottingham. We share her with the counseling department. She's our secretary. She does an incredible amount to support our system, taking care of every little detail so that our coaches are spending as much time as possible out in schools rather than dealing with other little things. And just to share the impact that coaching has, we know coaching works in education. It's incredibly powerful. We're really committed to measuring fidelity of our interventions and of our implementation. Before we start with a school, we measure what percentage of indicators of PBIS are already in place. And before coaching, about 35% of indicators are in place on average across our schools. 1 year later, with coaching support, we improve that to 82%. The marker for success has been shown by research to be about 70%. That's our target. So with coaching, we go from significantly below to significantly above in just 1 year. And of our schools that have met that 70% threshold, not a single one has ever dropped back below, because their coaches are there to sustain and support that success for the long haul. So what is this PBIS thing? We've talked a little bit about the systems that support it, that commitment to taking care of every student. It really starts with a collective commitment by the school staff to a core set of expectations. What do we want? What do we dream for our students? Who do we want them to be? And we empower intentionally every school to select their own expectations. We don't have Olathe-wide expectations, because every school community just has its own distinct feel, its own flavor, its own unique environment, and we want their system to really fit their kids and their staff. So we can see that Pioneer Trail, for example, they are accountable, respectful, and engaged, as H&R commonly teaches them. And we know that at Pioneer Trail, what it means to be accountable in events is to clean up after yourself and keep the exits clear. Simple, clear expectations that are taught to all students and all staff in the school, so everybody knows what do we expect from our kids. At OATC, our Advanced Technical Center, they're safe, engaged, empowered, and respectful, SEER, and they have expectations for the parking lot. Young drivers, learning a thing or two, learning what that zipper merge is, we teach those expectations, and I'm very grateful that we do so. We don't teach the zipper merge at our elementary schools, but every school has unique context, right? So they design their own. And this year we partnered with transportation. So actually in all of our transportation vehicles, including assisted transportation and DS bus lines, we are safe, we are kind, and we are responsible. So all of our students know what to do during transportation to and from school, and even during the school day. We systematically teach those expectations to all of our students, but we don't stop there. Every school develops a plan for how they're going to let students know that they've been successful in following these expectations. Every school has their own plan for this, but the key is when students are following the expectations, a staff member connects with them and lets them know they're doing an amazing job. The squeaky wheel traditionally gets the grease, but that's not actually a healthy way to run a school. We really want all kids, including those who quietly follow the expectations every day, to be seen, to be noticed, to be acknowledged. Everybody needs that, and that's what this acknowledgement system is for. But there's a little secret here that's really important. We train our staff that it's not about handing over a token. That's not what makes the magic happen. What makes the magic happen is every single time one of these tokens is given to a student, every single time at Olathe West that a student's entered into a raffle, every time a student at Walnut Grove is given a Starbucks, the staff member tells the student what they did well, makes that connection. Hey, I see you. I noticed that you were respectful in the cafeteria. Thank you for that. That connection is what matters. We don't require that our staff record how often this happens, but some schools choose to do so. And some of them are reporting to us that they are measuring over 100,000 connections made like this in a school year. That's 100,000 times that staff members are making a positive connection with students. It's incredibly, incredibly powerful and meaningful for that relationship. But even with those things in place, kids are human too, and they make mistakes just like we do. And we really, really emphasize that kids need both love and they need boundaries. We all need to know what we can and what we cannot do, and our students are, of course, no different. What those boundaries need to be, though, is really consistent. Classroom to classroom, staff member to staff member, especially in our secondary schools, where it's really challenging for kids to learn 7 or 8 different sets of what's allowed and not allowed. So when we bring PBIS into a building, we work with the school to develop what we call a flow chart that clearly outlines what to do for staff members when there's a challenging behavior in the classroom. How do they address that? How do they support that? And then when it's a more significant behavior that requires office intervention, what does that process look like? That way the entire building is on the same page. This is how we manage. This is how we approach. This is how we support. We also train our staff that many of our students have more individualized needs, and that's okay. They're able to have their own plans when that's more appropriate for them than the school-wide plan. And as staff are going through this process, as they're interacting with students, as mistakes happen, we keep track of those things. We keep track of those things in a system called school-wide information system called SWIS. And we do that because that gives us really actionable data that we can then use to create targeted interventions to support. So for example, this is data from one of our schools. And I'll guide you to the panel in the middle left that talks about referrals by time of day. And just take a moment and look at that. What time of day does this school need to think a little bit differently about their environment? We can see a couple of spikes, right? We can see a spike at 10 o'clock. We can see a spike at 1 o'clock. So then that begs the question, what's going on at 10 o'clock? What's going on at 1 o'clock? And I don't know. I'm not in that school every day. But who does know? The staff. You go to the teachers, you put this data in front of them, you put a coach next to them to guide their conversation, they'll tell you, oh, 10 o'clock, that's that transition between second and third period. Or 1 o'clock, oh, third lunch, we've got a little bit of silliness going on in the hallways, we got to clean that up. They'll tell you. And then what we can do is use that data to then create really targeted school-wide interventions that shifts our thinking from going kid by kid, putting out fire after fire, to instead thinking, how can we prevent en masse challenging situations? How can we prevent these things from happening in the first place? An example of a school that did this really well, they noticed that Tuesdays and Wednesdays were their kind of hot days where they're having more challenges. So what they did is they decided to reteach expectations. That always starts, right, with teaching. They reteach the expectations. Go back to square one. What are we supposed to do here? Then they decided to do double buck day. Their token, they had their teachers give out double those on Tuesdays and Wednesdays for following the school-wide expectations. That's it. That was their intervention. A month later, this is what they got. A decrease in major challenging behaviors, a decrease in how often the administrator is having to stop what they're doing and go handle a significant situation. In another school, they were having challenges on the playground. They were measuring 20 plus significant incidents every month. So they backed up, they put an intervention in place, targeted that playground, put some supports around that area, and they reduced that to 1 incident the next month. And since then, it's sustained with no more than 3 incidents on the playground each month since they did that intervention. They didn't have to go kid by kid. They wrapped around the environment and prevented that. That means there's now dozens of times that a principal did not have to leave their office. Instead, they got to focus on their work, or they got to be in the classroom providing some instructional leadership. Dozens of times the teacher didn't have to make a phone call to a family and say, hey, this is what we're working through. And most importantly, dozens of times the kid didn't have to leave the classroom or leave the playground, instead got to be integrated with their peers, working on their academic content. Bit by bit, minute by minute, that adds up to incredible success for our kids. We can also roll this data up at the district level. And I won't spend a lot of time here, but we can start to look and think, what does this mean for us systematically? Why is it that our kindergarten students are engaging actually in more challenging behavior than any other grade? What can we now do about that as a leadership team? Why is it that our boys are getting in trouble more than our girls? We can start to ask those questions and think about what can we do to support those target areas, to wrap around instead of, again, going kid by kid and blaming the student. How can we change our environment to be more supportive of all of our kids? And when a kid does need a little bit more help, and by the way, that's extremely common, we have some really powerful targeted interventions for individual students when needed. One I would like to highlight is called Check and Check Out. We've been doing this for a number of years. This really comes back to connection. We pair the student with a mentor in the building that's not their classroom teacher. Build that relationship. They meet with the mentor just 2 minutes at the beginning and the end of the day. During the day, the teacher gives them more feedback on the school-wide expectations. You can see Millbrook's example here. Give them feedback on what it means to be kind, what it means to be responsible, what it means to be respectful. So they meet with that mentor at the beginning of the day. Hey, how you doing, buddy? So glad you're here. Hey, remember, we're focused really on being kind. We've had a little bit of a hard time in the morning. This is what we can do to clean that up. Dude, you've been awesome at being respectful. That's been amazing. Let's keep that work up. Check in with your teacher throughout the day. End of the day, back to the mentor. Hey, man, let's take a look at your sheet. Awesome. You met your goal today. Here's a high five. Here's a token. So excited to send an email to your mom and let them know what a great job you've done. That's the intervention. It costs 4 minutes a day in staff time and the cost of a piece of paper per day. The cheapest thing we can do. But on the back end, again, with coaching support, we're using data to target and make decisions. This is real student data, and we can see this student over time has shown a lot of success in that check and check out intervention. And we can even zoom in and say, oh, the morning's been going great. What are we going to do for the afternoon? How can we modify and intensify this intervention to better support the afternoon for this student? And with all of this in place, we found with over 380 students that got this intervention last year, we had an 88% success rate. An 88% success rate is almost unheard of. And it's because our coaches and our schools are working together to micro-target just the right support for kids to make sure they get what they need. But we're not done. We've had some incredible success in the last 5 years, but there's a lot more work to be done. We have a few more schools, 10 more schools that we're excited to launch into this next year. We have made incredible strides in our database decision-making. We need to continue to invest in that practice, make that a part of our daily culture, ask all of our schools to really focus on that. We know it works. I've shown just a few examples here. I could have brought up 10 more. I'd love to continue to see our Tier 2 practices grow, especially in high school where we're seeing so much mental health need. There's some incredible Tier 2 mental health interventions that are ready for us when we're ready for them. We also have classroom-level interventions that are free and incredibly easy to implement. We've done with many of our pilot schools that teachers have implemented. Teachers love it. Students love it. It goes really well, reduces challenging behavior, increases academic engagement. We're ready to scale that now to any teacher that wants it. That's the next step in our work. And then finally, I have the privilege of also overseeing a lot of our mental health services. And traditionally, behavior stuff kind of lives over here. Mental health stuff kind of lives over here. It's really time to bring those things together. So that's a real big next step for us, is how do we think about using our data similarly for behavior and mental health, and how do we communicate similarly for behavior and mental health to bring those things together to support our students and our schools. And speaking of mental health, I promised a commercial, so I'm going to build up to that a little bit. We know that about 1 in every 5 kids statistically has a diagnosable mental or behavioral health disorder. And by the way, that data is pre-pandemic. I haven't seen updated data since, but I promise the number is higher. So 1 in 5 kids is going to need some help. But of those 1 in 5, if you zoom in on just those kids, only 1 in 5 of those are actually getting the help they need in the community. There's tons of incredible support in the community, but there are serious barriers to accessing them. And so that means that the other 4 there at the bottom, they're coming into our schools every day, and they need help. And it's not going to happen outside our walls. So what can we do? How can we break through those barriers and get those supports in place for kids? And when I say barriers, what I mean is finances. That's a major one for so many of our families. A lot of mental health services will take insurance. A lot of families don't have access to that, or their insurance only cover a couple of sessions. And a lot of mental health services don't take insurance, but it's what the kid needs, and families are not always able to do that. And even if you can find somebody, they often run their appointments during the day. That's tough. Now we're pulling kids out of school, trying to get them there. That's real hard on families. And then transportation, even if you can find the unicorn provider that's got a 5:30 appointment for you and it matches your insurance, I got to am I going to miss soccer practice? I got to get there. I'm working my second job. How am I going to get my kid back and forth to that? That's really, really challenging. And so access to mental health is a serious, serious challenge. I feel so blessed to be in Olathe. This is, by the way, where I grew up in Olathe. I went to Olathe Public Schools, and I'm so proud that we have implemented multiple systems to allow our kids access to services despite these barriers. Basically, we've said, if you can't get help out there, we'll take care of it here. We've got multiple layers of this. One is 6 licensed mental health professionals that are on staff for us. Our school counselors, our school social workers, and our school psychologists work hard every day to support student need. Very often, they're not able to allocate the time to provide more intensive therapeutic services. Okay, we got 6 people that travel from school to school that can do that. We also have contract therapists, partnerships with 25 different community mental health providers, where we actually bring them into the school and we let them just do their appointments right out of our conference rooms, right out of the principal's office. Thank you, principals, by the way, for making that happen. Right out of the counselor's office. We even are able to provide district funding if families can't pay for those services. We have great partnerships with Johnson County Mental Health, and we also offer our completely free help clinic every Tuesday during the school year, and Tuesdays, Wednesdays, and Thursdays in the summer for students and families that need some services, totally free of charge. All that together has supported about 400 students so far this year. So it's been amazing to wrap around that many families and provide these levels of services. I mentioned that district funding. District funding for kids who are not able to, for whatever reason, access due to financial barriers. 100% of our funding for that, and a huge amount of our funding for that free help clinic, comes from Taste of the Town. And that happens to be coming up, so you'll forgive a little bit of an advertisement for that. Taste of the Town is an incredible community event. Many of you I know have been there and have been a part of that. If you have not had the opportunity, I encourage you to get a ticket now, because they are selling very, very fast and will be sold out very likely. It's on March 29th. It's at 6:30 p.m. right here in Olathe. Basically what Taste of the Town is, it's a fundraising event where community members and local businesses and organizations come together and they raise money for mental health services just for our kids. Last year, Taste of the Town raised over $300,000, all of which goes right back into Olathe Public Schools and right back to direct mental health services for our students. Because of Taste of the Town, when I get a request for support, I just get to say yes. I don't have to ask a lot of questions. I don't have to think too hard about, oh, can we afford that? Are we going to have to prioritize? You need help? No problem. We'll take care of you. We'll get it taken care of. The signal it sends is that Olathe and this community cares about our students, wraps around our students, and wants to guarantee that they have what they need to be successful at school. If you are at all interested in making this part of how you choose to give back to your community, I would encourage you to go to OlathePublicSchoolsFoundation.org. If you can attend the event, you can purchase tickets, either as individual, family, or for an organization. If those tickets run out or if that date doesn't work for you, there's several other ways to donate on that site, including just direct donations if you're a no-nonsense kind of person. All of that, again, goes right back to our kids. So would love to see as many folks as possible be a part of that organization. And with that, I'll end my commercial and would love to take any questions or comments about PBIS or our mental health services.
So, Dr. Flute, we are so blessed and lucky to have you in Olathe, so thank you. A question. We've spent some time on this board recently talking about lines of communication and how to make sure that our patrons, but especially our parents, know how to reach out. If this concern is not coming internally and it's coming from the parents and they want to reach out, what do you recommend?
That's a great question. I have 2 major recommendations. One, for families that would rather go more direct, the help clinic is probably the first stop. And for that, you can either go to our mental health website or honestly just Google Olathe Help Clinic. That'll take you to a site that has information for how to enroll your student in that. So just the Help Clinic website, Google Olathe Help Clinic. And number 2, and probably honestly the most effective, your first stop is your school counselor. If you're at all wondering, hey, is it time? Hey, should I get some services? Or what kind of service is right for me? Maybe you don't happen to be a professional mental health service delivery provider and you just don't know a whole lot about this world. It's actually pretty common, it turns out. Talk to your counselor. They will connect you. They will help you triage. They will help you think through, oh, no, I think you can do it actually in this route, or, yep, it's time for the health clinic, or, ooh, let's get a contract therapist involved. They're really, really skilled at that.
Ms. Reagan.
Hello. I just wanted to say that the PBIS behavior matrix and all of that, it was really helpful for me as a substitute, being able to walk into a building, see the matrix, see what the expectations were for the students, and being able to refer to those. When I was a sub, I can't sub anymore because I have the privilege of sitting up here. But I will also say, as a parent, we use those expectations in our home. Sunnyside is responsible, respectful, and safe. The Reagan kiddos know what that is, and Isaac, our youngest, he isn't even in Olathe Public Schools yet, and he knows. And because we're able to use common language. And so when you talk about having a consistency of boundaries, I think that consistency of language is really important too. There is, common threads, I think, across our system in the words that each building chooses, the expectations. But as a parent, sometimes when you're really, me personally, I don't know how often have you view this way, but when you feel really exasperated, I'm able to ground myself and is that very responsible? Are you being safe right now? And it's been helpful for me. You can laugh all you want.
We can talk about being respectful at board meetings.
Right, that's right. I don't know that Mr. Boyd's being very respectful right now. That's right. But it's been really helpful. And so I appreciate that. I also want to say that, the way that we've been able to, I think, within our system, normalize the talk around mental health has been powerful. I personally, I see a therapist. I take medication. I'm saying that publicly, and this is on the internet now, because the more we talk about it, the more it's just a part of wellness, and it's a part of being human. And I think when our kids see us as grown-ups talk about it, and the fact that we've put so much emphasis on Taste of the Town and the huge partnership we have, it really speaks volumes to that maintenance of just regular care that we need to be giving. So thank you so much, Dr. Fluke, and to your department, and to all the coaches. And I know that this is not easy work, and it takes time to get it just right for every single building, but I don't have a question. I am just so grateful.
Thank you for saying so, Ms. Reagan. If I can say something about this upcoming generation, say what you like about kids these days, but this generation, more than any before it, knows mental health. They're literate in mental health. They talk about it, they think about it, and they advocate for it. And what that means is all of us grown-ups need to be ready when they come to us and ask, what do I do next, to have a good, clear answer for them.
Ms. Johan.
I feel better knowing, I have a first grade boy now, but a kindergarten boy last year. And so seeing the statistics of kindergarten boys made me feel better. Yes, yeah, with the phone calls, but I can, all the phone calls. But I haven't had any this year, but I went through the plan and we went through several steps of, counseling and things like that. And he developed a really good relationship with the school counselor. And it's really rewarding now to see just what that small interventions did for him. So anyway, just as a normal kindergarten boy, I would think, but looking at that and seeing what the benefits were. So I just am very grateful as well. And now recognizing some of the terms that, you said, Claire, I hear that at night too, of my kids talking to each other, and it's really nice. They're not fighting, and I appreciate that. So I'm very looking forward to Taste of the Town, one of my favorite things ever. And so very thankful for your presentation tonight and all that you do. Thank you.
For the support.
Dr. Fluke, thank you for being here. Clearly, you've made the board comfortable with all the personal sharing that has occurred this evening.
I have office hours tomorrow.
Awesome, awesome. And I'm glad that you pointed out you are a product of Olathe Schools as well, as is your wife.
Yes.
Yeah. So thank you. And PBIS coaches, thank you for being here this evening and the work you do.
Thank you.
Dr. Stuart Little is here with us this evening for a legislative update. Thank you.
Good evening. This may be the most awkward transition of your meeting tonight. I have great appreciation, wishing I worked in a building that they had people with positive behavioral interventions and supports. So I just mean for our mental health. I don't mean anything more than that. I'll go through a brief PowerPoint, and then I know you have written reports, and this is a very busy time for, let's make sure I can do this right. Okay, no, that's the back one way. Okay. I'll go through and kind of talk about where we are, some of the bills we're following, and kind of what lays ahead. We are getting near the end of the legislative session. We have had a very expedited calendar this year. There were lots of changes this year, very different from most other years. And so the pace has been very different. If you've read reports or if you work in other fields where you get legislative, pay attention to legislative issues, the process has been incredibly fast, very confusing, and been a bit of a challenge for anyone, even people that like us that work in the business, to stay on top of everything. And now that we're down to kind of the last 3-4 weeks of the legislative session, we're kind of seeing some of the price of that and some of the interactions we're having in the State House maybe at this point. But we've slowed a little bit because a lot of bills have begun to die and we're making our way to the end. But connected to that, of course, is the budget process, which I've mentioned when I came before, that we're doing it very differently this year. The House did a bill. The Senate is not doing a bill. They're meeting. There's no opportunity for real input in the budget process in the Senate. There is in the House side. So we're kind of getting a budget that's been very limited in terms of how it's been looked at on both sides, and that is reflected in some ways as well about the legislature beginning with their own budget. And I'm making note on the PowerPoint here, but we started out with the governor's budget recommendation for $74 million for special education and phasing it in over 3 years. That, because the way we changed the budget, the legislature beginning the session with their own budget, that just became another recommendation where historically would have said, okay, this is the budget we work with. So that has led to, when the bill was in the House, the $73 million was cut to $30 million, and then eventually in the House it got cut down to $10 million. That's new funding for special education to get us through the process. On the Senate side, just late this afternoon, the Senate Education Committee took a quick look at the budget. We submitted testimony in support of adding funding for special education, continuing that to get to 92%. There was an attempt yesterday, they worked it yesterday and today, to add the $84 million for the 10 million plus the 73 to add for the next 3 years. And this tells you a lot about where we are in the legislature. It was a 5-5 vote, and the chair broke the tie against it. So there's a lot of support there. Part of this is process, timing, those kinds of things. But so we end up with, we think there's $10 million left in the budget on the Senate side, and that's probably what the House has. So I think expectations of getting anything more for special ed at this point are probably gone, the way things kind of played out this afternoon. So, property taxes, I want to hit on this very briefly. You guys, there's a lot of information here. I won't cover all this, but it has an impact on revenue that the state has to fund schools. That's why it's important. It was cutting taxes last year. Come in this year, you want to cut property taxes. That was not part of what was done last year. There are 3 different plans. At this point, cap assessed valuation to 3% constitutional amendment, create a rolling average, and then there's this other bill that reverts back to a floating cap based on inflation and all kinds of things that will keep property taxes under some level of a lid. We're near the end. I'm not sure that any one of these ideas has enough votes to pass, particularly constitutional amendments to take 2/3 majority. And so we're still figuring out, I think the legislature's figuring out where do we pivot from here. February revenues were $130 million over estimates, which is kind of re-energizing people. We can cut more taxes, and lo and behold, the bottom thing on this list, we all of a sudden this year had the flat tax, the one tax rate reappear, had a hearing Monday, Tuesday of this week. So in the event that we don't get property tax, we may get a flat tax. So that will have an impact on revenue as well, but that's kind of where we are, and we'll see how things play out from there. I'm just going to briefly note the K-12 Education Task Force has had their second meeting. It was 2 weeks ago. They got briefed on all the components of the formula. They're going to meet once a month. It is their intention to have a school finance plan recommended, written, drafted up for the 2026 legislature to work on. I'll hit a couple of, these are a list of some of the main bills that we've been watching that are moving forward, some that are kind of in the midst here. There's the 3 bills that are kind of advancing that I have there at the top are some of the ones we've paid the most attention to, testified on some of those. The changing of board authority and allowing individuals to add and take things off the agenda and have a whole different way and structure of organization of how you would meet. That passed the Senate. It's Senate Bill 47, 21-19, and it's over on the House side. The bill regarding the use of pronouns by school district employees in the school district and parental consent passed out of the Senate 26-14. It was in the House Education Committee this afternoon at the same time the budget was going to the Senate. This bill passed out of the House Committee as well, so it's going to get to the House floor. It was modified a bit. There's some mitigating components to it that are helpful if one wants to help the bill. But it is, so it'll be on the floor, so we're likely going to get this to come up. And then there's an expansion of the non-public school scholarship program that exists. That's a tax credit for folks that make contributions. And it's moving forward, and it has a hearing on Monday in this House. So we're cramming everything into these last 14 days. The one thing I would note of interest here, every one of those bills that passed the Senate, none of them have a veto-proof majority, which would be 27 votes. So that becomes a calculus in how we're thinking about what may happen down the road. There's a variety of other bills that are that raised a lot of attention when they're introduced. At some level, I think the leadership is deciding we don't really want to do some of these. Some of them they do. There are 4 or 5 bills listed there. I think the one that's the most important is the third bullet under there, which is Senate Bill 75. It is essentially an $8,000 per person refundable tax credit that would be available for anyone that put their child in a non-public school. If it was an unaccredited or homeschool, you get $4,000. It costs about $125 million to implement that going forward, and that bill is the most clear, obvious voucher bill that we have in front of the legislature. It got out of Senate Education Committee. It's sitting on the Senate floor. I do not expect it to run, but it's sitting there, and that's kind of out there going forward. Other stuff, the CAPER, I'll mention CAPERS 3. That's kind of been an ongoing issue. There was a CAPERS bill to move teachers, for whatever the technical term is, certified teachers, from 3 to 2. It was about 20,000 people. and it cost $260 million to do that. So the bill didn't advance, and then you have local government people and administrators and support staff in the public school system that want to be able, that pushes the price tag to $500 million. So we're not going to do that right now. There is a bill that makes a minor adjustment to the calculations of dividends in Capers 3, but we don't have a good solution for any of those kind of things now. Other stuff that's dead, mentioned the tax credit here that I talked about. There's also a couple of, I would point out, 254 and 178 here. These are bills related to the engagement of undocumented persons in the country, and they have to do with the ability of any local or state entities to expend any state or federal funds or local funds for undocumented persons' services and those kind of things. And it got a little bit of attention. If anybody's paying attention to the hearing that was held earlier this week, the bill did pass out of committee yesterday, so it's on the Senate floor. The other one, in 178, requires local law enforcement to work with ICE. And I think that would probably include school resource officers at some level as well. That bill has been scheduled for hearings twice and been canceled both times. They're still trying to figure out if they can make this work or something, but both of those are out there. And I just, maybe when I get to this point in the session, it's kind of like we're all also waiting to see what happens at the federal level. Apparently there was some conversation about some issues that may have, executive orders that may have come today. They did not. But that's what we're watching. So at the end, this is where we are. There's 7-ish days left for committee meetings. And then everything that's passed that I've talked about a little bit, that's passed one chamber is kind of alive at the end of the legislative session. And what we get at that point for basically the next 3 weeks are conference committees where the leadership of the two committees get together and decide how do we feel about this one. They kind of negotiate, and then we'll run those bills. So we're kind of limited down to what's alive, and then you can look through that list. And the budget obviously is still there, but we will be done with the regular session 3 weeks from tomorrow, the 28th of March, and then they'll come back for a very brief session, wrap-up session to be done on April the 12th. So that's where we are. I'm happy to answer any questions that you might have.
Any questions, board? Mr. Babbitt.
Just a quick one. When you say that there's 7 days left for the conference committee, and after that, pretty much everything's set, are there exceptions to that? Like, can they just say, well, we said 7 days, but we're going to go back and meet?
Well, so the calendar that is set says we have, well, I believe it's the 17th of March, you're done with committee meetings. And then the legislature, as the House and the Senate, works with everything that's been passed from one chamber or the other. So we're not really going to go back to committee meetings anymore. It's going to be more negotiating and conference committees and folks doing those kind of things until we get to the end. So there can be new bills or a couple of new bills that were just introduced today, as a matter of fact, because there are some exempt committees. But in general, there's probably won't be a lot more put on the table than kind of what we know about right now.
Okay, thank you. The only other question I had was, what was the end result of the free and reduced lunch?
So that was governor's budget recommendation, $5.5 million to cover the cost of reduced lunch co-pays for about 20 some odd thousand students. Maybe 30, maybe not high. Governor recommended it. The House committee cut it down to $2.5 million, and then when it got to the full committee, they even took that out. So there's no resources in there at that point. And the Senate didn't add any in their budget today, so that's off the table at this point.
Okay, thank you.
Ms. Reagan.
Hi, Dr. Little. I know you touched on this briefly. I guess I'm curious, this budget process has been extremely different than those in the past. Is there, and you've said, the special ed funding, based on what happened in Senate Ed yesterday, is probably where it is. would it be, if we have constituents in the district, parents, staff, invested taxpayers who care about public schools, what would be the best way for them to advocate for the funding that our district needs? What would be the best way? Their specific legislator, people on the education committees, what is the best use of their voice?
Well, and I appreciate the question. The way, in general, most electeds in Topeka respond primarily and for the most part to folks from their district. So doing things outside of emailing other legislators is usually not useful and productive. So being focused on the folks that actually represent you, communicating via email. I know this is a step way beyond that, but when they have coffees and things in the next month or so, if anybody has any of those, that's a place to communicate as well. So reaching out and communicating via email is there still have office assistants who can take phone calls, but you're going to probably have more of a likely getting some kind of getting a look through some emails that are sent to your senator or your representative.
Thank you very much.
Ms. Steele.
Thank you for that, Stuart. That's exactly a question that I had is what venue and who is our voice best heard from? When you think about, is it 90-ish% of Kansas kids are educated in public schools? Yes. Is that kind of fair? That's a lot of people that could be contacting their legislator. So we need to be doing that because it's going to have a big impact. The question I have is a dollars question. So 2 school years ago, we transferred $38 million from our general to cover for SPED. Last year, maybe it was 32-ish, 30 million, something like that. This 10 million that's for the state that we may or may not have, we're not sure, right? How does that trickle down to Olathe? Is that a hard question? Because I don't know how to make sense of it for us.
Yeah. There are a lot of people smarter than me. Is my understanding of for example, the 73 million that was in last year. I'm going pure by memory, so if somebody can shout out a number. Was it 10, 12 million?
I'm going to say 8.
8. Was it so of that? So 12%. So if it's 10 million, it maybe would be if it's and it is being distributed in the favorable way that they did last year. That 10 million will be, which was part of the new formula that was passed. That emphasizes districts that had to make decisions to transfer from operating to cover special ed costs. That's how the formula works now. But yeah, so it's going to be around $1 million, something like that, I would think.
So, I mean, a big number, a drop in the bucket.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you. I am so thankful you are there advocating on our behalf, and I'm really glad that we have you on board. So thank you for all the work you're doing. I don't pretend to know how you do the good stuff in that building. It would be really hard. So thank you, Dr. Little, for being there. Appreciate it.
Thank you. Appreciate that.
Dr. Saig.
Yes, so just to clarify, it would be $1 million. Yes, there was some additional insight shared in terms of from Mr. Hutchison and what the amount would be that would come to us if it were to stay at the 10 million. So about $1 million.
Is he watching and texting? Becky. Oh, okay. That's an awesome system. Yeah. Any other questions, board? Dr. Littrell, thank you for being here and for your time.
Thank you.
Before we go to public comments, I was remiss in not recognizing Dr. Saig tonight, sitting on the dais. Dr. Yeager had to be out of town, and so she has stepped in and to fill his seat and help manage the evening. So thank you for being here. Yes. Ms. Steele.
At each regular meeting, the Board of Education reserves limited time for individuals to address the board. We ask that your comments be germane, that is, related to the business this board effectuates. Non-compliance may result in the president interrupting to redirect. We request that individual speakers limit their comments to 5 minutes. The clerk will monitor the time and notify the speaker when the 5-minute time limit has expired. Please direct your comments to the board and not the guests or staff. If a response is appropriate, the president will respond or will refer to another individual. In an effort to respect privacy, we ask that speakers refrain from discussing personal complaints involving individual staff members or students. Audience disruption is also not permitted. Finally, those speaking are advised that public comments are videotape recorded for broadcast on our district's educational access channel, and audio tape recorded as a matter of public record. Individuals addressing the board should come to the podium at the front of the room, state your name, city and state, and the relationship you have with the district. Thank you.
Thank you. And our first speaker this evening is Megan Briggs.
Good evening, Board of Education. I reside in DeSoto, and I am an Olathe music educator. Each and every day, I feel extremely lucky to be a music educator here in Olathe. Tonight, I want to share a few reasons why I feel so lucky and how we can continue to move forward together to keep public education strong here in Kansas. This week, we have been celebrating Read Across America Week, and all throughout our school district, we have had library media specialists and passionate educators finding creative ways to engage our students in reading. From school spirit dress-up days, to mystery readers in the classroom and library setting, to read-ins with blankets and stuffed animals, our educators have found exciting ways to celebrate this week with their students to further emphasize the importance of reading. I feel lucky to work in a district where students are encouraged to find books that they are both interested in learning about, as well as that I get the opportunity to work alongside passionate educators who want to help make reading fun and enjoyable. This month is one of my favorite times of the year. March is Music in Our Schools Month, as designated by the National Association for Music Education, known as NAFME. The purpose of Music in Our Schools Month is to raise awareness of the importance of music education for all students, and to also remind citizens that school is where all students should have access to music. A fantastic way that the Olathe Public Schools is celebrating is our Olathe Elementary Honor Choir, which will occur on Wednesday, March 12th at 7 p.m. at Olathe South High School. Choir students from various Olathe elementary schools will be singing in this honor choir, alongside the Indian Trail, Pioneer Trail, Olathe West, and Olathe South choirs. I'm so thankful for the importance of including music education in our students' educational time here in Olathe. I'm extremely lucky to be a music educator here in Olathe. As I think about how thankful I am to work here in Olathe and to be able to teach music to my students each and every day, I look to the future and the work we need to do to ensure every Olathe student can receive the best possible public education experience possible. Educators, students, and community members know why we are lucky to be in Kansas public schools, and we need to share these stories with our legislators. It's been a long day. Here's the truth. Every student and every family in this state deserves to attend a high-quality neighborhood public school, a place with well-prepared public school educators, high-resource classrooms, and all the tools that are necessary to meet their social and emotional needs. We know that our luck will run out if current legislation to siphon money from local public schools for a private school voucher or tax credit becomes law. In the next couple of weeks, we are coming together to elevate our voices and amplify our stories in many ways. Through social media posts, conversations with friends and family, communication with our legislators, and even a rally and lobby day. Let's show up to remind them that Kansans love our public schools. The event that is being hosted is called Lucky to Have Kansas Public Schools, and it's going to take place on March 17th at the Kansas State Capitol with a rally beginning at 12 p.m. Attendees are encouraged to wear green because we truly are lucky to have Kansas Public Schools. We hope that our community, as well as yourselves, will show up to support Olathe Public Schools and our investment in public education. You'll be receiving an email with information about this event. Today and every day, I'm extremely thankful to work in public education. I feel lucky each and every day to be an educator in a Kansas public school, especially here in the Olathe Public Schools. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Brigg. Grace Stinson.
Hello, my name is Grace Stinson, and I currently live in Olathe, Kansas, and I am a senior at Olathe North High School. I am also a senior thespian officer for Troop 3310, and I have been involved in our theater program led by Director Justin Pence for the past 4 years. March is Theater in Our Schools Month. Throughout the month of March, students from across the world will celebrate, raise awareness, and advocate for the importance of theater programs in our schools. Today was Advocacy Day. Me and 14 other students from across the district had the opportunity to go to the Capitol and speak with our legislators about the importance of theater in our schools. And today, I am here to express my gratitude and on behalf of thousands of other students currently participating in theater programs across the Olathe district, and to ask for continued support to keep our communities alive and thriving. I have seen myself and seen so many others grow and flourish during their time in the Olathe North Theater Department. This program makes it feel like 4 years is just not enough time. But with that being said, having that short amount of time is what made my experience so much more valuable. When taking a look at other school districts' theater programs, I realize how privileged I am to be able to be a part of the district I am in. There are several districts outside of the Johnson County area that do not receive the proper funding and support they need to keep their theater communities alive. Theater creates a safe space, a home. It creates a space where you can be yourself. Theater teaches valuable life lessons and skills. If I wasn't in theater, I don't think I would even be able to talk in front of a group of people. I have learned how to collaborate with my peers while working on shows and how to put in my fair share of effort. Performing arts programs can be a motivator to get students to attend their classes and receive academic achievements. I have been taught how to face rejection, adapt, and how to quickly think on the spot, which I have been able to apply throughout my academic career as well, and I will use those skills for my future endeavors. Theater is storytelling. Through your support, we can keep telling these stories. Especially in divisive times, theater gives community. It gives everyone a chance to come together and create no matter who you are. We closed our winter musical Hairspray a month ago this week. Hairspray gave Olathe North the ability to showcase and celebrate the diversity in our school. Hairspray gave so many a community, and I truly have never gotten that close with a cast and crew in such little time. Hairspray gave me, and many others, a home away from home. During Hairspray, we laughed together, cried together, and told our story. This would not have happened without the support our program has received from the Board of Education. I had the opportunity of student directing for a production, and through that experience, I solidified my desire to become a theater educator. I want to help tell those stories for the future classes that come through these halls and to help create and lead that community. None of this would have happened without the support we have been given. This past year, we also had our production of You're a Good Man, Charlie Brown. The show ends with the line, "For happiness is anyone and anything at all that's loved by you." And for me, and hundreds of other students currently participating in theater across our district, happiness is theater. So thank you for giving me and so many others the opportunity to experience that. We implore you to continue that support as it positively impacts so many students. Thank you.
Thank you. Before you step away, thank you for going to the Capitol as well to speak and for all of the work that you've done during your career in theater. You indicated that you were interested in being a theater educator. Do you have a plan as to where you'll continue your education?
I am currently looking at, in the fall, I'm going to attend the University of Kansas and have a double major in theater and education.
Awesome. Awesome.
Yes.
I see some cheers in the back of the room, too.
Yes.
Best of luck to you.
Thank you guys so much.
Bahan, Did I say that correctly?
Baja.
Baja.
Yeah, like Baja Blast or Baja California.
Oh.
People remember it that way, right?
That's awesome. Thank you.
Assalamu alaikum. I greet you with a greeting of peace, the Arabic language of peace. I am a product of the Olathe School District. I started my journey 35 years ago. I was a first grader back then. Don't do the math. But I started during that time. My sister was the first graduating class of Olathe East in 1995. So we have been with the district for so many years. I'm here tonight to advocate for an Arabic language program in our schools, an initiative that would profoundly benefit our students and community. Arabic represents a strategic educational opportunity. There are 400 million speakers worldwide and an official status in more than 20 countries. Arabic is designated as a critical language by the United States government. By offering Arabic instruction, we equip our students with a valuable skill that significantly expands their academic pathways and career horizons. The cognitive benefits are equally compelling. Research consistently demonstrates that learning a second language enhances cognitive abilities, problem-solving skills, and academic performance across all subjects. Arabic's distinctive script and linguistic structure provide unique cognitive challenges that develop analytical thinking and mental flexibility in ways few other educational experiences can do. Beyond academics, an Arabic program would strengthen our community's cultural fabric. It would foster global awareness, promote inclusivity, and provide vital recognition for students from Arabic-speaking backgrounds. In our increasingly diverse district, this program would serve as a bridge between cultures. Economically, Arabic proficiency creates exceptional opportunities in diplomacy, international business, translation services, and humanitarian work. Our graduates would enter higher education and the workforce with a significant competitive advantage. The groundwork for success already exists. Our community has expressed strong interest in this initiative, and we can implement it effectively by following successful models of other school districts. Partnerships with cultural organizations and universities, along with available grants and government funding, provide viable pathways for sustainable program development. By introducing Arabic language education, we aren't simply adding a course offering, we're opening doors to new worlds of opportunity for our students, enriching our community's cultural landscape and preparing the next generation for meaningful participation in the global society. I respectfully urge the board to consider this proposal and take concrete steps towards making Arabic language education a reality in Olathe Public Schools. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you for being here.
What questions do you have? Because we'd like to implement this program. My mom implemented it over 30 years ago in the Shawnee Mission School District. They started with the Center for International Studies and brought Arabic language, Japanese, Russian, and those unique languages and Chinese into the district. And those students have been able to travel globally. They are now parents, as I am, of their respective districts and bringing their children. And it has created so many opportunities for us in our lives. I've been able to travel internationally and work internationally as a school director in Dubai, but home is where the heart is, and Olathe is now where I'm back and raising my children. So I hope to be able to establish that kind of a program here in the secondary levels and be able to open those doors and really bridge the world and show the interconnectedness that we have. Thank you so much for your time. Appreciate it.
Carrie Van Buskirk.
Good evening. Before I start, I would like to piggyback on something that Mr. Baha mentioned that might be relevant as I speak more this evening. My son's best friend that was with him the night that he passed away speaks Arabic, and that was one of the languages that I heard that brought me quite comfort and peace during his memorial service. So I thought it was important to share that. As he spoke, I was thinking of that. It was a lovely memory. Good evening. My name is Carrie Van Buskirk. I'm an advocate for many, and I am the mother of Ty and Benjamin Van Buskirk, who attended South, as Dr. Sean D. Marie would say, Forever Falcons. In honor and memory of Benjamin, whose 18th birthday would be next week, I wanted to come forward and speak of something very important to him and important to the character that shaped who he was. On the night that Benjamin lost his life in a completely selfless act of bravery, he had absolutely no idea of the race, gender, ethnicity, socioeconomic status, or political affiliation of the individual that was trapped inside her car on that dark highway. He saw a fellow human being that was in trouble, and he instantly acted. As I have shared before, character is not something that we often measure in assessments. It is not seen or reflected in a GPA either. But how I have seen the reflection of Benjamin's character and his love for his fellow man and his many peers and the teachers that inspired him, shaped him, and led him. Many, if not most, look nothing like him on the outside. This is the very beauty and essence of diversity, equity, and inclusion. This was so very apparent in the attendance and the story shared at Benjamin's memorial. Every single walk of life came to pay their respects and mourn their friend. I'm honestly not certain how many different nations were represented that day, but one of his uncles commented that it looked like a United Nations convention, and my heart was absolutely delighted. So many parents came forward to pay their respects in varied languages, and their beautifully bright children translated for them. While our languages did vary that day, our love and our grief is exactly the same. Numerous families and children with disabilities were present, and every shade of skin created a beautiful tapestry of Benjamin's world that day, one that is shaped here in our Olathe schools. The idea came to speak tonight on this very important subject matter was birthed from my emotional response to a recent Facebook I saw on our Olathe Public Schools Facebook website that featured the HBCU Club at Olathe South. It was posted in recognition and honor during Black History Month. I captured glimpses of many of Benjamin's dear friends and staff that were so incredibly important to him. And my heart was warmed by the beautiful sight of the bright futures ahead for these students that embody Black excellence. And I am so incredibly grateful that my son cherished their friendships. Simultaneously, I was struck with immense concern and fear due to the various governmental pressures that may deeply impact the access for these important opportunities, departments, and institutions. I may just be one voice, and some may characterize that voice as woke, whatever that is, but I prefer the simple term, decent human. Thank you. Thank you to our Olathe Public Schools, each and every one of you, for aiding me and Mark in our common goal in shaping an incredibly decent human on what would be his honorable 18th birthday. Thanks.
Thank you, Ms. Van Buskirk. Board, at this time, we will move to action consent. And I would welcome a motion for items 6.01 to 6.20.
I move to approve consent. Action consent, agenda items number 6.01 through 6.20 as presented.
Second.
Motion by Brad Boyd, second by Will Babbitt.
Can I make a comment? My thing's not working.
Oh, probably because I didn't turn you on. Go ahead. Sorry.
Yes, regarding item 6.20, which I also group it in, I just want to make a comment about the Head Start evaluation and the ERC, I think is what they call it, policies and procedures and the eligibility chart for Head Start. I've had the privilege of being the board representative on the Head Start Policy Council, and the amount of detail and time time that goes into making sure these littlest of our students who are identified as having a need that could be served by this federally funded program, this was, fine-tooth comb goes through all of these things. And I just wanted to say how proud I am to sit on that policy council and listen. You know, I am not a Head Start policy expert, but I've learned a lot. And the detail and the care and the specificity that is reflected in the eligibility criteria, you know, we have an amazing program, and I just wanted to reflect that before we take our vote.
Thank you, Ms. Reagan. Ms. Beam.
Mrs. Reagan.
Yes.
Dr. Yurkovich.
Yes.
Mrs. Steele.
Yes.
Mr. Boyd.
Yes.
Mr. Babbitt.
Yes.
Mr. Kuhn.
Yes.
Mrs. Johan.
Yes.
Motion passes 7-0. Items 7.01 to 7.05. I'd welcome a motion.
I move that we approve items 7.01 through 7.05 as presented.
Second.
Motion by Ms. Reagan, second by Ms. Johan. Before we go to a vote, I think Mr. Humphrey had some comments about 7.05 and the Apple device replacement. Thank you.
I don't have any comments, but I'm happy to answer any questions. I know I kind of listed in the administrative section about some changes that we were hoping to see from Apple. Apple's kind of in a transition period between the iPad 10 into the iPad 11. We were lucky enough to kind of work that solution so that the iPad 11, which was released on Tuesday, would be the solution that we would go with, which saved the district a considerable amount of money. So all good things.
That's actually, we noticed from the future item until tonight that the actual cost was significantly less than what had been predicted.
So this is a solution that we've been trying to work with Apple directly to try to ensure that we could position ourselves in the best possible way to be ready for that purchase to get to our students in time for the start of the fall, but not be behind any other purchases that may have come in. So thank you for your flexibility in that. It really did help, and then we positioned ourselves really well to save some considerable money.
Could you clarify? I know headphones are part of this as well as keyboards.
So yeah, great question. One of our big initiatives is kind of a combination between the principals, staff, was the idea of keeping iPads on premises much more than we are currently. If you know, some of our schools keep them on site, some of our schools send them home to be charged, and those transition periods is when we tend to see the most breakage. So one of our biggest goals is to be able to provide a solution that will keep them on site for a good, considerable portion of the time, if not significantly all the time. Mainly some accommodations can be made for those upper grade levels, but as a part of this bid, it does include charging solutions for every classroom so that teachers can house those iPads in their classrooms, make sure that they're charged and ready to go for class the next day. There's a significant change in the iPad structure. The iPad 10s or now the iPad 11s, they use USB-C like all of our phones use, where the iPad 8s that they're currently using use those 3.5 millimeter headphone jacks. So part of our solution was to provide a percentage of headphones for those schools to kind of replace their current inventory. Also adapters to convert USB-C to 3.5 millimeters, so the purchases that they've made in the past don't go to waste. They can still use those as they see fit. And then one of the other things is we get a lot of requests for keyboards. We know the importance of teaching keyboarding, and we wanted to provide that solution to our buildings as well. So this bid does include charging solutions for all of our classrooms across the district. It does include keyboards so that teachers can use keyboards with their iPads however they see fit to teach those skills or however they see the need for their classes. Also headphones and headphone adapters so that they can be up to speed with the current use of the iPad or the current peripheral of the iPad, but also not waste any inventory that they currently have.
Thank you. Board, any other clarifications? Okay. Ms. Beebe. Thank you, Mr. Humphrey.
Yeah, you're welcome. Thank you.
Dr. Yurkovich.
Yes.
Mrs. Steele.
Yes. Yes.
Mr. Babbitt,
Yes.
Mr. Boyd,
Yes.
Mrs. Reagan,
Yes.
Mr. Kuhn,
Yes.
Mrs. Johan.
Yes.
Motion passes 7-0. Moving on, Board, just to draw your attention to the future action items. There are a number related to curriculum. As you can see, it's kind of that time of the year. Wouldn't you say, Dr. Reeves? Yeah. And then also information about school capacity related to the open enrollment, which we'll learn more about in the next couple of months. There were 3 written information items: the Head Start Director's Report, the bond issue updates. Mr. Palangi, thank you for consistently providing that. And then Learning Services, Dr. Reeves, thank you for that as well. At this time, then, we will move to topics for discussion. Any comments board members might have? Mr. Babbitt.
Thank you. I wanted to start by, I just wanted to respond to the last gentleman that spoke, that he said Assalamu alaikum, and the only thing I really remembered from Iraq, from Arabic, was you always have to reply with salam. So I just wanted to make sure I responded.
Thank you.
A few things for me. I was lucky enough to go visit California Trail with Dr. Waters and Dr. Reeves last week. And quick history, I hated middle school. I was bullied endlessly. I was from a small little elementary school that funneled into a bigger town, and I hated it. And I told Dr. Waters the first time I met her that middle school was not my favorite, and she made it her mission to convince me otherwise. So I was lucky enough to visit this school, and Mike Wiley, who's the principal there, took us around, and he wasn't expecting us. Nothing was set up, and I was really blown away by a few things we saw there that really made me start to rethink how I feel about middle school and today. The first thing was we went to the pool where kids were taking their final part of their swim section, and we were at the end of it. They were doing a Navy SEAL game to learn to help do teamwork across the pool. They had to move things across the pool as a team and not touch the bottom or the walls or the poles, and just work together as a team and use some creative thinking. One kid was having some issues getting across the pool. He was well behind the other kids who were at the other end. And without a thought, 2 other kids just dove back in the pool, immediately went back and helped him swim to the side. And everybody was cheering him on. That is definitely not something that would have occurred when I was back then, but it was great to see these kids help each other, encourage each other, and see them grow and right in front of me. The other thing that he brought up was that a selection of teachers had done what they called student shadowing for the first time. They actually followed a set of students around for the entire school day to get a feel for what the day was like for them. And he was describing to me all the things that they learned, some of which were how hard it is to go from class to class in 4 minutes, which I still don't know how they do that. How hard it is to shift your brain from math to science to reading to whatever electives they're taking so quickly, 6-7 times a day, and immediately dig in and start learning and doing your homework and presenting to class. So it was really interesting to see how the administration and the teachers really wanted to understand their students better. It wasn't just tell them what to do and they better do it or else. So it was really encouraging just to see that done. So I want to thank Dr. Waters and Dr. Reeves for taking me, and thanks to Mr. Wiley for showing us around. I went to the Black History Month Celebration of Excellence at Eagles Landing here in Olathe, and it was my second time going, and it was, again, a fantastic event celebrating our Black educators and our Black students. I wanted to give a thanks to the Department of Culture and Belonging, as well as all the affinity groups and the Black student unions in the high schools for putting it together. It was just so much fun to see all the students encouraging each other and celebrating each other, and to see all of the teachers taking part as well as the speakers. So that was wonderful. I went to the February culinary night at the Olathe North for the culinary arts program. It was another fantastic meal of gumbo, smoked salmon tacos, chicken and waffles, and incredible carrot cake. The last meal of the year opens up tomorrow. I'm not going to say what time because I want to sign up before everyone, but it's on April 11th. So if you have that evening free, I really encourage you to sign up. It's a great meal, a great program to see these students interact, grow, not just cook, but interact with everybody, take their orders, learn to deal with people it's a great environment. And lastly, yesterday was the 3D Market Expo at Olathe East, and it was incredible. These students put together their own ideas, their own business ideas, and they pitched them back in, I believe, December at the Oracle campus to investors who give them feedback. And then at the Market Expo, which was yesterday, they have prototypes, they have booths set up, and you can go booth to booth, and these students present their ideas to everybody that comes by, including their fellow students and their parents and business leaders. And the ideas were incredible. Everything from services like car detailing and shoe shining to making clothing, to making lotion, to making candy, to making these sports equipment. And it was just really great to see these students that I don't think normally would be out in front of people presenting, really put on the spot and really grow into it. So it was really a lot of fun, and I look forward to expanding within Olathe. And thanks to Olathe East and Junior Achievement for inviting us. And that's it.
Ms. Steele.
Thank you, Dr. Yurkovich. Tonight I'm going to depart for just a few minutes to talk about a couple of people up here who really don't spend any time talking about themselves. But we have a couple of birthdays, and it is my pleasure to embarrass them a little bit. But I'd first like to tell you a little bit about both of them. The first one is Brad Boyd. He and his wife, Maisha, are raising 4 amazing humans, all students here in our district. He is our ranking member on the Board of Education, our longest current serving member. And he has served as president and vice president, and he's been appointed as our BOE rep on other boards, including OPSF, which is a big time commitment. He was elected in 2019, and he was sworn in January of 2020. So, with no idea of what was to come, I think you had maybe 3 meetings before things got really interesting. He has seen a lot of phases of public education and of Olathe Public Schools, and in all of those phases, he rises to what this community needs. Brad has a way with words. You all know that. And so I'm going to tell you a story, but I'm going to tell you Brad's words. I was newly elected, and I walked into a classroom, and a kid asked me, "Are you Martin Luther King Jr.?" And not only is that funny, and I thought it was funny at the time, but I also thought it was a great example of why diversity and representation matter, and why kids seeing themselves in leadership is so important. I couldn't agree more, and I'm thankful that you're in this space, but I'm more so thankful for all the ways you are in this space. You are calm, but also direct. You're supportive of the wins while challenging our progress, and you're a champion of hard work while reminding us why the heart and our why are so important. So, happy birthday to you, and thank you for your service to our community. second. Thank you.
I'm telling you, Dr. Fluke, this whole feel about yourself. Thank you.
So, as you all know, Dr. Yurkovich does not sit up here to tell you all about herself, but we are so blessed and lucky to have her in this space. She was a teacher in our district for 2 years, and a junior high and middle school administrator for 24 years. And following her retirement from Olathe in 2015, she continued working in education and served as the director of teaching and learning for another Kansas district, and a high school administrator and director of academies in a Missouri school district. She fully retired from public education in 2022. But did she? Thank goodness for us, there was no quiet quitting for this one. She decided to take yet another position of the non-paying kind, and we here in our district, we are so much better for it. You don't have to talk to her for too long to know she is a proud mother and grandmother. Her grandkids are all Olathe Public School students, and she spends many a weekend at their events. I'm going to let you in on a little history lesson. When Dr. Stacy Yurkovich was born, things looked different for women. Women weren't allowed to make contracts or wills, and it would be another 20 years before women were treated equally at banking institutions. And more importantly, although not prohibited, women were highly discouraged from holding a political office. So we can see how she thumbed her nose at that, and aren't we lucky she did? We benefit so much from having her on the Board of Education here in Olathe. And so with that, happy birthday to our fearless leader and our current president, and we are so grateful that you couldn't stay away from education. That's all I have.
Ms. Reagan.
Thank you. I would be remiss if I did not mention, as the Olathe Northwest dance team was up here, I could not help but think back to my days as a head drill team coach at Blue Valley Northwest, where our very own Mrs. Grubaugh was one of my captains. And yeah, that was a blast from the past. I mean, yes, they walked up and I'm like, oh, Becky, it's coming. I'm going to say something. So yes, once a dazzler, always a dazzler. All right, so I can't believe it's already March. January took 5 years and February took 5 minutes. And a lot's gone on, but I find myself so grateful for our district and our schools. I got to visit, because I haven't been able to make it to a site council meeting there, I visited Manchester Park. Principal Steele was happy to host me and show me around, and we popped in and out of classrooms, and the kids were completely unfazed. It was like I was invisible. They just kept going on with the learning, and that was really neat to see. They are one of our Spanish immersion programs, and it was amazing to see the kids learning math in Spanish. I got to watch that for a little while, and they switch during the day, so they're not Spanish all the time until they get a little older, from my understanding. But watching the teacher teach fully in Spanish math, they were looking at angles, I think, was really just so neat to see. I mean, I know we've had the program, but when you watch it, it's really magical to see the way that language, it just, yeah, I'm lost for words, guys. I've lost the language. I have. Okay. This week at the Capitol, for my day job, I got to see quite a few Olathians. Today, Andrew Taylor, who is a teacher at Olathe Northwest, he is a master teacher this year, was recognized on the Senate floor, and I got to say hello to him, thank him, and that was really neat. Yesterday, I saw our OATC students with Mr. Chris Bergman Bergen. He brought a group of them, and one of the students who spoke at our board meeting last month was among those kiddos. So it was really a pleasure to get to see them and chat with them. And Angie Mendez, our Parents as Teacher program coordinator, was down there for Advocacy Day. It just, Olathe is in that building a lot. Our district is there, and it just shows just how deep we are in the heart of Kansas. Olathe Public Schools is so important. I'm really looking forward to reading in a few of our elementary schools for Read Across America. I'm doing that tomorrow. We're not in session, so my job, I don't have to be in the Capitol to do what I do, and I'm really looking forward to being around our kids. It's an interesting time in Topeka, to say the least. So I'm looking forward to reading. And on that note, I wanted to say, Dr. Little brought this up, that in the Senate Education Committee, there was a proposal for a budget recommendation to add $84 million and fully fund the excess cost of special education. It was brought up by one of the senators who's a former superintendent. And I don't know if Dr. Little mentioned this out loud, but his PowerPoint says that it failed. It was a 5-5 vote, and the chair broke the tie, not in favor of the funding. But I wanted to thank Senator Adam Thomas and Senator Dinah Sykes for voting for the funding. It is so important when our delegation supports our schools. And I'm speaking for myself, it is disappointing when our delegation does not support our district. And every day when I have conversations with people, Olathe Public Schools is what is on my heart. And if you care about this district, you need to reach out to your state legislators and tell them that we need the funding, because our funding will allow us to give a 12% raise to our professionals. Oh, I'm sorry, 14%. I was looking at last year. Okay? Our teachers are begging for more paraprofessionals. They are begging for substitutes. And that comes from funding. I apologize for getting emotional. It has been a long day. But if you care about our district as much as I know you do, our legislators need to hear from you unceasingly. Finally, it is Women's History Month. And Saturday is International Women's Day, and I just wanted to tell my girls up here on the dais that I am so proud to serve with you. And, I don't believe anyone is innately better or worse because of who they were born to be, but it is pretty awesome that we've got 4 women up here leading this school district. So, guys, advocate for our district, advocate for our educators, advocate for our support staff, advocate for our students, because we will be nowhere without public schools. And I will never stop beating that drum. So there we go. That was a whole smorgasbord of emotion. There we go. I
know. Anyone else, board? Okay, I would like to just make a couple of comments, and typically I will talk about events that I've attended and appreciate those individuals, and I think that has been reflected tonight with other comments. Not that I wasn't at events. I was with Will yesterday at 3DE and multiple others, and appreciate all of the work that individuals in this district do, and we continually see that in the presentations, in the approvals we provide for teams to travel to compete. So proud of our Science Olympiad teams who are going to state, 3 middle school and 2 high school, I believe. But I wanted tonight to just make a comment for the people in our community. You have seen tonight emotion and passion from board members, and I have opportunity to see that frequently in conversations and in executive sessions. And I just want to say to our community, because there's a lot of uncertainty and change going on. We've talked about some of it at the state level tonight. We see it on the news at the national level. And the individuals sitting at the dais tonight and working as board members, volunteering as board members, are committed to Olathe. We're committed to Olathe staff and students and families. In these times of uncertainty, we choose to concentrate on those things within our control, knowing that there is a lot that is not. But those values that we have, the values that we all belong in Olathe, the values of inclusivity and safety in a social, emotional setting, in a physical setting, providing the most opportunity and education that we can, and supporting one another in that process is where we will continue to put our energies. And so again, tonight we thank the staff in the district, the work that is done daily. We thank the students. We see so many great things. The young woman tonight who was here representing theater, and how well-spoken, the elementary math students who prior to were telling me the teams that they beat this year, you know, they were so proud of their accomplishments. And to our community, we thank you for the continued support and engagement, because that's where the difference is made, and our ability to continue to work for you. So that is all I have. Board members, anything? Dr. Sieg?
Yes, good evening. So I'm going to echo many things that have been shared already, but I'm going to start first with, it must be a trifecta birthday, because we have one on our team as well, and so she's going to kill me for this, but today is Dr. Liz Harrison's birthday, and so we wish her a very happy birthday as well. I'm sure there's no other place she'd rather be celebrating. So happy birthday to Dr. Harrison. This week, as it was mentioned before, we are celebrating Read Across America Week, and many of you have had a chance to be guest readers or mystery readers, and I know we've all really enjoyed that and sharing our love for reading with our students. And I know I look forward to reading at Northview tomorrow, so I get to see the road runners, and I look forward to that. We have several staff groups that we're recognizing this month. As was mentioned before also, this is Music in Our Schools Month, and so music and the performing arts are an essential part of the educational experience here in Olathe, and helping our students to make connections within their schools and community while enriching their lives in countless ways, from choir to band and orchestra, music class, and more. Our students are not only growing their musical acumen, but also increasing countless other skills through these experiences. Not to mention the fact that our entire community gets to benefit through the sharing of these talents with us. We're so proud to celebrate our music educators this month and sincerely thank them for all that they do each and every day for our students. This month, we are also excited to celebrate our athletic trainers. In Olathe Public Schools, we've had a long-standing partnership with Olathe Health, which is, of course, now KU Med, to support our student athletes. Our athletic trainers are more than just first responders on the sidelines. They are educators and mentors and advocates for student health. They play a critical role in injury prevention, rehabilitation, and ensuring the overall well-being of our athletes, allowing them to perform at their very best on and off the field. Their work requires long hours, deep knowledge, and an unwavering commitment to student success, and so we want to send out a special thank you to our athletic trainers for all of the things they do to champion student health and safety. This week, we also, along the lines of the work that Dr. Fluke was referring to, we are celebrating our school social workers. And so their compassion and dedication and tireless efforts in supporting our students and families make a profound difference. If you've ever had a chance to see a school social worker in action or work alongside one, you know what I'm talking about. It doesn't take long to see the integral role that they play in our mission to support and grow the whole child. So again, we send out a big thank you to all of our school social workers, and please know how much we appreciate you. And then We had some reference in a commercial for Taste of the Town, so I want to plug that again. Awesome event with an even greater cause. So if you are not attending, you still have a chance to do that. But again, as Dr. Fluke mentioned, if you'd like to support, you can go online to the website and donate directly there as well. I think that wraps up all my comments, other than just to say thank you for letting me sit in this seat tonight. I sincerely appreciate it. I'm always proud to say that I work in the Olathe Public Schools, but even more so as the daughter and granddaughter of educators, married to an educator, middle school even, Mr. Babbitt. Have a middle schooler at home who goes to here in the district. You could say I'm probably surrounded a bit by education, but I also then have the pure pleasure of knowing the incredible educators and staff we have here in the district, and to be a small part of that is truly an honor, and you all set the vision for that, and so truly thank you. Thank you for having me on the dais.
Thank you. And one more commercial for Taste of the Town, because Mr. Babbitt mentioned registration opens tomorrow for the culinary meal, but if you can't get in there, or if you just want to double dip, our culinary students are actually some of the food that's provided at Taste of the Town, so you have that opportunity as well. Okay. We do have a need for an executive session, board, and believe we can take care of those matters in 30 minutes. So if someone would like to make a motion.
I move that the board go into executive session for the purpose of discussing matters relating to employer-employee negotiations under COMA, and that the board return to the regular meeting at 8:20 p.m. in this room.
Yes.
Motion by Julie Steele, second by Brad Boyd.
Mr. Kuhn?
Yes.
Mrs. Reagan?
Yes.
Dr. Yurkovich?
Yes.
Mrs. Steele?
Yes.
Mr. Babbitt?
Yes.
Mr. Boyd?
Yes.
Mrs. Johan?
Yes.
Motion passes 7-0. Thanks to those in the audience. If you choose to go home, have a nice evening and weekend.